Go. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back in for another episode of the Boiled Out Podcast with Jake and Justin. I'm your host, Joe Mensa. A lot has went down these last 2 weeks as the Eastern Conference Finals is now officially set between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. And the Lakers and the Clippers are seemingly destined to meet in the Western Conference Finals as the Lakers have a 3-1 lead over the Rockets and the Clippers have a 3-2 lead over the Nuggets. But most notably, the NFL returned on Thursday night with the Texans taking down the Chiefs. So Justin, what are your thoughts on the Chiefs running it back this year after the first game? You think they can do it?
So watching that game, my biggest takeaway was how they were able to dominate the game without getting their deep threats, Mecole Hardman, Tyreek Hill. They didn't even need to use them because they were just using Travis Kelce and CEH. So that really surprised me because that was their kind of go-to offense last year. So just having the ability to ground and pound the other teams, I think they'll kind of surprise some people this year. Now they really don't have a weakness on the offense. Their defense looked a little questionable late in the game, so I'm kind of worried about that. And I want to see them kind of go up against their road defense. In 2 weeks, they play Baltimore, so that will be very interesting to see. I want to see how they do in that game before I say they're going to make another run back to the chip. But after that game, I'm pretty confident right now that they will be at least they'll make the conference finals out of the AFC for sure.
There's not much I can disagree with there. I think it's a hard game to take anything from because, I think the Texans aren't going to be very good this year. Some teams are some people are a little more on to them having maybe a shot at the playoffs this year, but I really don't. I think the Texans suck. I think they're going to I think because of Watson, they'll win 6 or 7 games, but they're not going anywhere this year. That defense looked awful out there. They looked like, it looked like middle schoolers were out there against Patrick Mahomes. They were just getting whatever they wanted. They probably would have scored 50 if they wanted to, but they basically gave up in the second half. So I'm not taking much from this game, but the Chiefs are a powerhouse. They're absolutely loaded all over the field. And if this kid, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, plays like this with them, God, Lord have mercy, they're going to score 50, 60 a game, whenever they want to, because now they have a true running back. Last year they had the 25th best running game in the NFL. Now they are going to have a top 5 running game with him and Darrell Williams. They're loaded all over. They're going to be great this year. Their defense, I think, is a little suspect at times. We saw Watson have a little bit of success early in that game against them, but they're pretty good. They're a solid defense, and their offense is probably the best in the league.
Well, when you watch the Texans, you kind of saw something different because last year was kind of just continuation of getting the ball to DeAndre Hopkins, but without him, they had the 2 speed threats in Will Fuller and Brandon Cook, so it kind of is a different offense. And my biggest takeaway was how well David Johnson looked. David Johnson looked like he was back in his old form because they can't stack the box on him anymore. They have to keep the safeties up top over the top because Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks will burn those quarterbacks. So I think they're going to be a ground and pound team this year. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. Duke Johnson and David Johnson are going to have a very good year, in my opinion.
I agree. I never understood why the Cardinals all of a sudden just benched him. My theory was always something happened with him and Bruce Arians, his wife. But we'll never really know what happened there. But I'm glad for him to be in a better situation because he's really talented. He deserves to be playing rather than sitting on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's looking like the Chiefs are just getting better and better every year. So they're going to be looking to run it back this year. While the Texans, they could struggle this year with the loss of Hopkins and the lack of weapons for Deshaun Watson. So I want to get into a little bit of the NBA. So the Boston Celtics defeated the Raptors last night in Game 7 of the Eastern semifinals, 92-87, as Jason Tatum led the way in scoring with 29. Not a surprise. So they now move on to play the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. So Justin, who do you think's winning this series?
I really hate the Boston Celtics. I really hate them a lot. But you just have to take them over the Miami Heat. And I think it will be a good series. It's going 6 or 7 games, but the Celtics will just prevail. They have a better coach, in my opinion. They have a better defense. And I think Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, I think they have the guys that can lock down the players for the Heat. I think Bam Adebayo on Theis will be a bad matchup for the Heat. I think Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart on Jimmy Butler will be a difficult matchup. And I just don't think the Heat can defend the Celtics players because I think Duncan Robinson, Tyler Herro, trying to guard Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum is going to be a bad matchup. Jimmy Butler can only guard one of Kemba, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum. He can't guard all 4 of them, so I'm not sure who's going to guard them. I just think it's a bad matchup. I think the Heat will win probably 2 games, maybe a third, but the Celtics will prevail and win the series.
I actually completely disagree with what you just said. I really love the Heat in this series. I picked them to go all the way to the finals back a month ago or something like that, and I'm sticking with that pick now. I think they win this series, and I think it's because of that man, Jimmy Butler. I mean, you saw what he did to Giannis Antetokounmpo. Their defense completely revolutionized in that series, and they shut down the Milwaukee Bucks. There's no reason for me to think that Eric Spoelstra can't put together another defensive plan to shut down the combination of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. At least one of those two guys, if you shut one of them down, that's how you beat the Boston Celtics. That's what the Raptors did. In the games that the Raptors won, either one of Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown didn't play very well. So you can let Tatum score 35 and still win the game, you know. And I also thought it was alarming that the Celtics were close in that Raptors series because I don't think the Raptors were as talented as the Celtics were. And without the home court advantage, I didn't think it should have gone 7. Obviously, I wanted the Raptors to win because we hate Boston here. But to be honest, I truly think the Heat win this series. You know, I'll bet my hate, not just because of my hate for the Boston Celtics, but because of what I've been seeing so far in these playoffs. I think the Heat win in 6 or 7 games. I do think it's a long series, like you're saying, but I think because of Jimmy Butler, because of Hero, because of the way Dragic has been playing as well, and Bam Adebayo is still playing well. He's not playing as good as he did in the regular season, but he's still pretty solid. I love the Heat in this series, and I think they win in 6 or 7. I really like this team. They got a good combination of guys who can score on the inside and shooters on the outside, something that our Sixers don't have.
Yeah, well, you mentioned how they look so well against the Bucks. I don't think the Bucks were that great of a team to begin with. I think they were kind of frauds. I don't think they were the one seed.
Maybe a little bit.
Really, they don't have the talent. Like Giannis in the playoffs has never performed, and it's pretty simple to beat him. We've seen multiple teams do it, and the Bucks have struggled against those teams, and the Heat are just one of them that match up well with the Bucks. I think that's why they won that series. I think if they would have been playing the Raptors in the second round, I think the Raptors that game would have won 7 games, probably 2, and the Celtics probably would have taken care of the Bucks in 4 or 5 games. So I don't really think them beating the Bucks is that big of an accomplishment because I don't think the Bucks were that.
Well, I don't think we saw it happening in 5. I think I saw that more 6 or 7 rather than 5. A quickie. He was really quick series.
It was really quick, but I think if you switch the Heat and the Celtics, I think the Celtics would have done the exact same thing, especially once Giannis went down, because that kind of just ruined the team there.
Well, I agree. I think they're going to give them the Heat a much better battle than what the Bucks did, because the Bucks kind of gave up after game 2. Basically, it felt to me. I thought they would come back more energy in that game 3, but they just didn't have it. And then Giannis got hurt. You know, whatever. I think he kind of gave up and quit, and that's why I don't think he's the MVP. But that's another discussion.
Well, when you look at it, I mean, the Milwaukee Bucks, they were really underperforming that series, and I think it was more on the coach Mike Budenholzer because he kept playing guys. Giannis, he was playing Chris Middleton. He was only playing those guys 33 to 35 minutes in a playoff game. I never
understood that.
Meanwhile, Brad Stevens is out here playing Jason Tatum. Game 7, he played 45 minutes last night. Kemba Walker, 43. Jaylen Brown, 43. Like, it just didn't really make sense. And, like, for Mike Budenholzer, he played Pat Connaughton in 12 minutes. He was minus 19. Like, just stupid things like that. The Boston Celtics will not do that, and the Heat won't be able to take advantage of that. So that's why I think the Boston Celtics prevail.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a really good series. Could go 6 or 7 games at least, I think. But we'll definitely be looking forward to that. So sticking with the NBA, I want to talk about the Lake Show as the Lakers won Game 4, 110-100 over the Houston Rockets. Things got a little dicey towards the end of the game, but pulled through after Alex Caruso hit a late 3-pointer. So, Jake, how confident are you feeling right now about the Lakers winning the NBA championship?
Extremely. More so than I even was. I was very shaky at the start of this bubble, but now I'm in full complete confidence. I think that, you know, obviously there was a big comeback by the Rockets in the last game, and people kind of talk more about that, but the Lakers really didn't care at the end of the game. They had it won. I mean, the Caruso 3 obviously put it away, but that game was over. The Lakers stopped playing, and they shouldn't have stopped playing because you really shouldn't, but they've dominated the Houston Rockets these last 3 games. It's literally the same thing that just happened in the last series against the Trailblazers. The first game scare and then complete domination. And it's going to be over in 5 now. A big part of that is because of House. I think losing House makes these games a lot less closer than they would be. And I think the Rockets would have taken another game with House at least. But now they're not going to get any more. But no, I've got complete confidence in this team now. They're finally back into the form where they were in March. Guys hitting threes. They got Danny Green starting to hit threes. He hit some shots last game. Rajon Rondo's been a revelation. I mean, who would have ever thought that? I didn't think he was going to play much at all. And all of a sudden, he's coming here playing 30-plus minutes, putting up near damn near triple doubles. So It's been incredible to watch with him too. He might be the big three that we've been talking about for the LA this entire time. He might have been that third guy, and I never would have
Not J.R.
suspected
Smith?
that. I was wrong on that. He's not even playing. I don't know. I would play. I think they should play him more because he's not even getting a single minute really at all on the court, and he can be dangerous when he's on. But right now, you got to be playing guys like Rondo the way he's been playing. So I think the Lakers are easily winning it all this year. I think they're the best team by far now left. I think the only team I saw them losing to was the Bucks, and obviously things have completely changed. They're out of the picture now. So.
Yeah. So at the beginning of this, I said the Rockets would probably win the West, and I said that as Daniel House would be the X factor. I said Daniel House was so key for them when he was healthy, and I said he would be kind of almost their X factor MVP type player. And without him, it's very noticeable. They lost these last 2 games by 10 points. Daniel House averages 11 points per game, so that's 11 points right there. Instead of Daniel House, they were playing Ben McLemore and Austin Rivers, who have combined for in the last 2 games to score 6 points total in 40-some minutes. Daniel House would certainly be doing much better than that, and he is 100 times better at defense than both those guys combined. So losing him really cost the Rockets this series, and I'm really confident in that statement. I mean, he is just that much better of a player. I think the Rockets would have won those last 2 games by probably 5+ points if Daniel House was playing those games, just based on of how much of an impact he has on the game. So without him, this series is probably over. I think the Rockets do win tonight, but then after that, I think they do fall in Game 6 because they do not have House, and they just don't have the depth. Their starting 5 is good, and then you have House kind of coming off the bench, but after that, they have 0 depth.
Yeah, we'll see if LeBron can bring home a title to LA. That would be insane. But we're gonna. Speaking of LA, sticking on the same topic, the Clippers also they have a 3-2 lead in their series against the Denver Nuggets. So Justin, how are you feeling about the Clippers' chances to win the title?
I'm pretty confident in their chances. I mean, we've watched Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They've been inconsistent, but when they're both on, they have been excellent, and they have been dominant. So I think this extra game here gives them another chance to just gel together. This team didn't play much in the regular season together, really not at all. And it's just another game for them to kind of gel and get better chemistry. So I'm really looking forward to them playing another game. I think they'll handle the Nuggets pretty easily this game. I don't think they will give up because I think they did give up. They had the 16-point lead. I think they just said, oh, we'll cruise to the end of this, and it bit them there. So they were not able to win that game. But in the end, I think they will win this game here. Nuggets will not be able to force 7. The Clippers move on, and the Clippers match up much better against LeBron and Anthony Davis than the Rockets do. So I think they will get a lot of trouble there. And really, the Lakers haven't played any good defensive teams down low and inside because the Rockets do have good defense, but they do not have the rim presence of the Los Angeles Clippers. We've seen Kawhi with the blocks. We've seen Zubac. We've seen Harrell. We've seen these guys. That's not how the Rockets play. The Rockets are a small ball lineup, and Portland Trailblazers play 0 defense at all. So I think it will be kind of a shocker for the Lakers that once they play the Clippers because they're not used to that type of defense. And I think the Clippers probably jump on them early, and I think they'll win that series in 6.
I'll agree with one thing that you just said there. I think that the Clippers will start off hot in the series because the Lakers, I think these first 2 matchups for them have been basically perfect for them. They've way oversized who they were playing in the Trailblazers and the Rockets. And now they're heading towards the Clippers, who have dogs on their team. They have absolute dogs on their teams. Guys who are going to play physical inside. Guys who are going to get in your mouth. Guys who are going to push you. The Lakers. It's going to be I think this is a 7-game series, and I think it's the biggest series of the whole playoffs. I think this is the toughest series that we will see the Lakers have to go through to get to win the championship. But I have the Lakers winning in 7 right now. And the main thing is for me, the way LeBron's playing, the way Anthony Davis is playing, and if you get that out of Rondo, I just think it's going to be too much for the Clippers to really let up. And, Paul George, he's been a little bit playoff P in this series, but he's also been pandemic P. So it's sort of unreliable what you're going to get out of him, especially in really big moments. I mean, this will be the biggest moment of his life, really, in this next series. I'm assuming both teams advance, which they will. But, we can't book it quite yet. The Nuggets did come back from 3-1 in that last series, but that's not happening in this series. At most, they get 1 more, but I really don't think they get 1 more. They should have lost the last game, but the Clippers decided to have an off day. They basically load managed in that Game 5. But no, I really like the Lakers' chances against the Clippers. I think it's going to be a great series. And if Paul George plays like he does in this series that he's been playing against the Nuggets, it's going to be really hard for the Lakers, and maybe the Clippers can eke it out. But I think it's just going to go to the veteran who has the most experience in the playoffs, LeBron James. And I think Kawhi is going to put up his numbers. But I think the real difference in this series is going to be Paul George's play versus Anthony Davis' play. And Anthony Davis is playing much better than Paul George in the bubble. And also now the Lakers are having guys contributing off the bench, just like the Clippers have. So the depth isn't really an issue anymore. So I got the Lakers in some.
But then you go and look at the difference. You see the Clippers are playing the Nuggets now, and Jamal Murray was dropping 30-plus points on the Jazz, who were just an average defensive team. And then he comes over here and he's playing the Clippers, who are an excellent defensive team. And Jamal Murray's averaging only 16 points per game this series. So you see the difference in drop-off in points. So the Clippers are a good defensive team, and I think you'll see guys like Rondo who are playing well now. Those numbers will not be there. He will not be playing as good. Kyle Kuzma won't be playing as well. Anthony Davis, I think, will struggle a little bit less. I think LeBron James will still put up his 20, 15, and 8, but I do not think Anthony Davis will play as well.
I think you're still going to get the same out of AD and LeBron. The big question, you're right, is Rondo. Can Rondo keep this up? If it's not Rondo, it has to be somebody else, for the Lakers. We've been saying that all along. The Lakers just need one more guy to play really well. And they've got that in Rondo in this series. The series before, it was Kyle Kuzma and also a little bit what was it? It was Kyle Kuzma and also a little bit somebody else. I'm forgetting.
Morris.
Morris. Morris playing well in that first series too. So that was what helped them. Morris played pretty well in this series too. Not as great as the first series, but Rondo in this series has been absolutely extraordinary. So if he plays like this, I don't think the Clippers have any chance. I don't think he will play as good as he's playing right now. But if he can just give you kind of what he's giving you right now, and then you get the same level of Kuzma, I think that the Lakers will win this series.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a hell of a series. I mean, most anticipated series the whole season. It's what everyone wants to see. So we'll see how that plays out. But I want to transition into the NFL. The NFL is finally back this weekend with all teams playing on Sunday and Monday. But perhaps we're seeing one of the biggest games of the weekend is the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Saints. So, Justin, who do you think wins this game and why?
It's going to be a good game. It will be the best game this weekend, I believe. And I just think the Saints hold on and win this game. I think it will be a good fight. But the Buccaneers without Mike Evans, Tom Brady, first game, we've seen guys struggle. There's no preseason, so you're not sure what you're really getting out of them. I think Tom Brady will come out of the gate a little slow. I just think the Saints have too much in the first game to lose. And I think the Saints do win this game. I just think at home, Drew Brees, what kind of wants to show out after the incident that happened over the offseason. I think he wants to gain back some trust of his teammates, so I think that will help him. He wants to play well. You have Alvin Kamara wanting to show off on his new deal. You had Emmanuel Sanders with Michael Thomas. The Saints never really had a wide receiver too, and that defense is just better, and it's in New Orleans, so I think it's too much for the Bucs to win in week 1, considering Gronk's never played and hasn't played in 2 years. Brady's first game in this offense and no Mike Evans. I just don't think the Bucs really have a chance.
Is he officially out? I saw he was questioned.
He's doubtful. Him and Galladay are doubtful this weekend.
That changes what I was going to say for this prediction. Not my long-term season prediction for the Bucs. I still think I think they're going to the NFC Championship. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But this weekend, I thought it was going to. I always was leaning towards the Saints because, first of all, the main thing that's been off for the Bucs this year has been the strangeness of the offseason. They haven't really been able to have a normal offseason where they've had Gronk come in, Tom Brady come in, Leonard Fournette now. They got all these new guys coming in who have never played with each other, even in a preseason game would have been, a couple preseason games just to get some groove with each other. All they're basing it off of is these limited practices that they've been able to do. Where in the Saints, they had basically the same roster as last year, insert Emmanuel Sanders. So it was always going to be an advantage for the Saints, I think, this week. And I think they will win this game. I have to agree with you on that. I think if the Bucs had Mike Evans, it'd be a really close one, and I'd probably lean towards the Bucs. But because of this now doubtful report, I didn't know that until just now. I saw he was still questionable. Now the Bucs are in real trouble. They're going to have to rely heavily on Chris Godwin, Gronk, and Scotty Miller now is going to have to step up big time if they're going to have any chance to win this game. But I think it'll be a good game still. I have to lean on the half of the Saints due to team connectivity, and also the Bucs are arguably missing their best receiver, although you could argue that Godwin and Chris Evans are basically the same level of tier. But long-term season-wise, this doesn't change my prediction. I think these Buccaneers are going to be a really good team this year. They're going to be probably the most fascinating storyline in football.
See, I think they're going to be a solid team. I think they go about 9-7. I think they do struggle off the bat, though, because Leonard
I can see that.
Fournette, midweek year acquisition for him, so he really isn't hyped up into team. Like, he doesn't have the plays down. He's just kind of getting into shape. So I don't know if he'll necessarily be in his prime form like he was last year. So I don't know how that will work. And I know Evans always seems to be injury prone, so I don't know
Yeah.
about him. I'm just not sold on them being a elite team. I think they'll be a good team. I think they'll go probably 500, maybe 9-7, but I don't see them really going past 10-6. I think that's kind of their ceiling this year, just based off everything that's happened with the strangeness of this year.
Yeah.
It's a fair argument, but I personally have them having a really good season. But I agree with the struggle out of the gate. That's definitely a possibility. That could affect the record a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely probably the biggest game this weekend as the Bucs face on the Saints Sunday at 4:25 on Fox. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman will be on the call for that.
Yeah, thank God.
I'm sure you guys are very happy about that. I don't know about Justin. I know Jake's happy about it.
I'm happy about that. That's some
Worse than
hooting and hollering
in-season
for that.
Yeah, he always seems to get all the big games. It's because
He gets the best. Only the best for him.
Yep. All
Not
right.
Troy Aikman, though.
Troy.
He's terrible.
He is.
Joe
Especially
carries it.
with
He
Cowboys
carries it.
game.
Joe carries it.
Oh, he really does, and that's bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the NFC East as it could go either way this season with the Cowboys or the Eagles, but they're definitely going to be fighting for that division win, just like last year. So, Jake, who do you think is going to win the NFC East?
Well, I know you guys aren't going to like this pick, but I'm going with Dallas. I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys. I think they're winning the division this year. I think it's going to be close again. I think it's going to be like last year, maybe where it comes down to the final week or something like that. Because these are two teams that I think are both making the playoffs. Obviously, now with the 7-game form, they're both going to get in. But I really, really like the Cowboys this year. I don't know why. I just have a feeling that they're finally going to put it together. They have all the pieces of a championship team, really, of a team that can at least win the division. I think they're really a championship contender this year if they play up to their expectations, which we know Dallas has a problem with doing that. But I just think it's going to be too hard for them to screw this up. They arguably have the best offense in the league up there with the likes of Tampa Bay and New Orleans. I mean, they are loaded. They have the best wide receiver core you could ever ask for with Cooper, Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. That is absolutely loaded. You got one of the best running backs in the game in Zeke. A quarterback who is, I would say, a top 10-ish quarterback. So he's going to play like top 5, though, with those weapons. Then Dak Prescott and a very solid defense in which I really think they should pick up Earl Thomas. I don't know if they will. He's still available. We'll see. That would really help boost them up a little bit on the defensive side because defense has been their problem, especially late in the season against the Eagles, losing those big games due to defensive breakdowns. But I think this year the Cowboys win the division. I still like the Eagles, but, the number one thing with the Eagles that is always a problem is they've had a lot of health issues. I mean, they already lost their starting right guard and Brandon Brooks already before the season even started. Carson Wentz, he's great, and I know he's not injury prone. We've gone through this in the show, but he's unluckily injury prone. What if he gets an injury late in the season again, like he has several years before? That could affect that final game. And I don't know. I still have the Eagles playoff team, but I have the Cowboys winning at least 12 games this year. I think the Cowboys are going to be outstanding. If they play up to their expectations, I have them going 12-4, and I have the Eagles right there, probably at the number one wild card spot at 10-6, 11-5. So not a huge difference in the division. I just have the Cowboys eking over the Eagles this year, which we haven't seen in two years. It seems like we're kind of flip flopping the division here, so I think we see it flip back into the Cowboys this year.
Okay, so clearly you've bought into the Cowboys hype, which is kind of crazy because the Cowboys haven't won anything in
I can't believe
years.
I have, but
before we were born,
for
they
some
haven't
reason,
won anything. But yeah, so well, first off, I'd like to say Miles Sanders officially is out this weekend. Boston Scott is playing instead for the Eagles, so that's going to hurt them this weekend.
It won't matter for this week playing.
Yeah, they're playing the Redskins football teams, so it's not that big of a deal. But I mean, it is something to monitor there because you don't want him out long term. But I mean, let's talk about the Cowboys first because they're without their center and left guard now who have both left, and they're going to be young guys filling in there. So I'm a little worried about them there. You got a solid offense. Zeke's good. They got the best wide receiver core probably in offense. But guess what? They were the number one offense last year too. They were the number one ranked offense. So that's fine and everything. But what happened to their defense? Their defense wasn't that great to begin with last year. They lost their pass rush. They've lost their secondary. They don't have they're one of the bottom 5 defenses probably in football this year. So I'm not really looking forward to that. I think that defense gets torched by the Rams week 1. I don't even think it's going to be that. I think they'll win the Rams will probably win that game by 12 points maybe. I think the Rams offense is going to come out on fire on that defense. I think the Rams are pulling off the upset.
Jared God-awful?
Jared Goff, Sean McVay is a genius, and he's going to come out there with a plan to beat that defense because they really don't have anybody on the defense that scares me at all. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, they're going to have a field day. So I'm really not worried about that. Now for the Eagles, they are bringing back everybody. They're adding healthy guys. They all know their system. They're all kind of in this together. And you add Darius Slay. You add Nick Robert Coleman.
Darius Slay's old. I'm sorry. I think he's still good, but he's definitely not a game changer.
Did you see what the Eagles had at cornerback last year? They had practice squad guys at cornerback last year.
Better than what they had.
Darius Slay, compared to them, is a huge upgrade. It's not even close to that. So that's going to be much better. They added Javon Hargrave to that defensive line, so it's even better because they have Brandon Graham, Hargrave, Malik Jackson, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, all those guys on the defense line. Their linebacking core is probably the worst in football, but they don't really use linebackers that much. They add Will Parks. They got Rodney McLeod, Jalen Mills at safety. It's a very good defense this year. I'm going to be really excited to watch them play. I think it's going to be very surprising to people because everyone thought, oh, yeah, it's the Eagles. We're going to go throw 400 yards on them, and you can't do that this year. That defense is revamped, and it's going to be good. And the last time Carson Wentz had this much skill at these skill positions on offense, that he was an MVP candidate. He was arguably the best quarterback in football. He has Deshaun Jackson. Jalen Reagor was supposed to miss 4 weeks. He's now playing week 1. He's healed from his injuries, so that's huge. You have Greg Ward at the slot, who's solid, and he has chemistry with Wentz. You have the best tight end duo in football, and you have Miles Sanders at running back. They're the best tight end duo in football.
Probably, yeah.
It's not.
They're certainly the Eagles are scary, and they're going to win probably 11 games this year. Meanwhile, the Cowboys, I have them going 9-7. I think Week 16 will be very interesting. I think that game will probably decide the division. I think the Eagles do win that game.
It usually always does.
Yeah, that's normally how it goes. I think the football team and the Giants really have no shot. They'll probably win.
Two teams that don't deserve a name.
They'll maybe combine for 9 wins. Combine maybe 4 and 5 wins.
No, I think even less.
That's like their ceiling. I don't see much more from them. Maybe the Giants do something, but I don't see anything out of the Redskins. The Redskins don't scare me at all. So I think the Giants could maybe win 5, 6, maybe at most, if everyone stays healthy in that offense. But the Eagles are just, I think, the best team. And all 3 of those teams change coaches. They're going to have new systems in there other than the Eagles. So that's a huge advantage for the Eagles in this weird offseason that they've had. So that's another reason to give the Eagles the advantage here.
Well, the only thing that you forgot to really include in terms of advantages, Dallas is going to have fans this season, supposedly. So that could be a huge advantage in Week 16.
We'll see how that plays out. We haven't seen how long that will last. So far, most teams have said only the first 2 weeks that they are not having fans. So we'll see how that goes. You're right, though. Dallas is having fans. So that is an advantage. But they'll also have artificial sound in there. So we'll see how that goes. They will be playing sound to the stadium. I don't know. I'm not a football player, and I'm not in the NFL, so I can't really judge how much that impacts. But depending on how loud it is, it could make an impact because that's what the year Atlanta went to the Super Bowl, they had artificial sound added into their stadium, and it made a big difference, clearly, because they went to the Super Bowl. So I'm not sure what that will do, but it'll be interesting to watch.
I think this is totally off topic here, but watching it on Thursday and seeing people in the stands was very shocking to see during what's been a very strange time, but I think it could work. I think it would work, in small capacity, so nobody's at a disadvantage. Because right now the Chiefs, Cowboys are going to have huge advantages having people there. I mean, you could hear them on Thursday. It was like loud. It was surprisingly loud. It was like wow. Like,
for only having 16,000 there, it was very loud. I was surprised. It sounded like it was a full stadium.
Their Cowboys are even bigger, so they can probably have even more. So like,
I think they said I think it was like 23,000. I think it's going to be. So something like that, because it's like 25% of like a 95K stadium, so it would be around.
That's a lot. It's definitely going to make a difference. How big of a difference is still a question, but we'll see. I mean, Week 1, we're gonna see. No, the Cowboys are on the road this week, I believe. So we won't. They're
in LA.
Yeah, so we won't see them this week, but eventually, when we get to see that, it will be very interesting.
So you think the Cowboys win Week 1 against the Rams?
Yes, I do.
Whoever beat
Jared Goff was not doing anything. I think the only chance the Rams have is if their defense is still fantastic. Probably the best defensive player maybe in the NFL. And
Jalen Ramsey will totally lock up a. Ramsey will lock up a.
I think it'll be low scoring. I will say this: it will be low. It'll be low because both teams are going to struggle.
Ramsey will lock up Cooper. So then you just have Gallup and you have a rookie in CeeDee Lamb. So there's no guarantee what you're getting out of him. You have Aaron Donald going up against a rookie left guard, rookie center. That's going to be a very tough matchup there. They'll probably bring another somebody like that's just terrible. So I'm going to expect Aaron Donald to be getting to the quarterback a lot. I don't know. I think it will be a good game, but I think the Rams will pull it off in the end because I think that defense is good, and I think Sean McVay is a better coach than Mike McCarthy is. I don't think Mike McCarthy is a decent coach, but I don't think he's that good. I think he's just average, and I think he's certainly better than Jason Garrett, but I mean, I don't think he's a huge upgrade.
I think it'll be low, but I think it just comes down to the offense, and I think the Cowboys' offense is just so much better than what the Rams had with Jared Goff-awful. I will not say his last name until he actually starts to play better as the number 1 pick when you could have had Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I mean, I just think Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods will have a field day on that defense because there is nobody. The linebacking core is good for Dallas. I will give them their linebackers. They're very good, actually. Probably one of maybe the best linebacking core in football. But I mean,
they really should sign Earl Thomas. They really should
because there's nobody in their secondary. They lost Byron Jones, so I couldn't. They're going to start a 3rd-round pick in Diggs, who just transitioned from wide receiver to cornerback his last year in college to start up against Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. It's a terrible matchup. I don't think that's going to be a good matchup for them. So I think Goff should have like you said, he hasn't been good, but I think this is a matchup for him where he will play very well. And I think they'll win probably 10 to 12 points.
And I mean, for Christ's sake, you're talking about character. Maybe it's the character here, but the Cowboys just brought back Randy Gregory, who was almost going to jail. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think that the character thing should really matter here versus one practice fight. It's being a little bit overblown in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Earl Thomas to the Cowboys just kind of makes sense, and I'm not sure why it hasn't happened already. Like, it's a perfect match, and I'm just kind of confused. If I were a Cowboys fan, I'd be very mad at Jerry Jones right now that he's not on my roster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely going to be a very interesting season between these two as the Cowboys have much to prove after a very not so good season last year. So last topic I want to talk about as the season is officially underway. I want to know who you guys think is coming out of the AFC and NFC and who's going to go and win the Super Bowl. Justin, I'll let you go first.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. It's tough to make a Super Bowl prediction this early, and I'm kind of torn. I think the AFC will be represented by the Buffalo Bills, and I think the NFC will be represented by the Seattle Seahawks. Those are my 2 picks right now. I think the Bills have an incredible year. I think they probably I was looking at their schedule. I have them winning 12 to 13 games. I think they're going to be competing with the Chiefs for the number 1 seed. That division is awful. I think they'll win at least 5 division games right there. So that's 5 wins. They may lose one in Foxborough, but other than that, I think they're going to win a lot of games in their division. They just have a good schedule. I was looking at it. I think they're going to win 12 to 13 games, and I think they'll compete with the Chiefs for the 1 seed. And Seattle is clearly the best team in the NFC. I think Seattle will win the 1 seed in the NFC. 2 seed will be the Saints. 3 is Eagles, and 4 is Vikings. With the Bucks, the Cowboys, and I had the Rams winning the wild card spots there. So no 49ers and no Packers in the playoffs in the NFC. And then in the AFC, I had Steelers, Bills, Chiefs, Titans with, I believe I had the Patriots squeaking in there at the last wild card at 7. Then I have
Steelers and who else? I forget.
I had Ravens because I have Steelers winning.
Oh yeah, and
then I have. Why am I blanking on the team? I had the Texans squeaking in as well. So those are my playoff teams, and I think the Bills and the Seahawks win the AFC and NFC. With the, I'll have the Bills win a Super Bowl. Bills Mafia will be very happy. Yes, as the Bills win the Super Bowl this year. They have an elite defense. I think Josh Allen takes the next step. And with Diggs out there at wide receiver, they have a good wide receiving core, good O-line, and Moss is a good power back in there to mix it up with Singletary. I think I think they're an elite team this year.
Well, I have switched up. I know I was high on the Patriots when Newton was first signed, but then all the opt-outs kind of cost him. And I think the Bills do win that division. So I'm there with you there as the possible 3 seed. But I don't have them going into the AFC Championship. I think the AFC Championship is going to be my Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And the NFC Championship is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Seattle Seahawks. And in my Super Bowl, I got the Seahawks in the Super Bowl like you do, and I have my Pittsburgh Steelers. And then as my champion.
Where are you?
No. No way. No way. That's even worse than the Bills.
I hope it's a Seahawks.
It better be a Seahawks thing.
No. No.
The guy who is going to win MVP and comeback player of the year and Super Bowl MVP.
No. What?
No, that's so bad. I agree. The Steelers are a good team. I think they're this year's San Francisco 49ers, and they're going to compete just like they did with the Seahawks. And 49ers competed with the Seahawks last year, and I think that will be the same battle they have with the Ravens. I think they're a good team, but I don't think they have enough to make the Super Bowl, even let alone win the Super Bowl. They're just not – they're too young on the defensive side, and I think Big Ben just doesn't have all the options. Yeah, like T.J. Watt's still young. Bud Dupree, Devin Bush, all those guys, I think they need a couple more years till they fully develop. And I think Juju Smith is good, but other than that, I think Chase Claypool's solid, but it's his rookie year.
I think Deontay Johnson could be one of the
Deontay Johnson's solid, but I don't think he's going to be I just don't think there's quite enough there, and your run game isn't nearly going to be as good as the Niners was last year. I think Big Ben's a much better quarterback than Jimmy G, but I mean, I just don't think I can see where you're coming from. I think they can win the division, but I don't think they make a Super Bowl run. No way.
Well, let me make my case here after the showmanship right there. So first of all, the offensive side, I believe that the Steelers have a top 10 offense right now. First of all, you have the quarterback who led the NFL in passing yards and touchdowns just 2 years ago. His elbow had been pained even back to that day. It's finally healthy. I think
you had AB on the roster back then.
We did. And I think what we're going to see now is you're going to see Juju play a lot better with Ben. You got Deontay Johnson, who was the best rookie wide receiver last year. You got, in my opinion, maybe the best wide receiver in the draft, Chase Claypool, as a steal in the second round.
He's not the best wide receiver yet. He has the potential to be down the road, but there's a reason he was a second-round pick to begin with. He has no hands. His hands are bricks. He's a athletic freak. He's DK Metcalf. DK was not nearly the best wide receiver in the draft last year. That's why he went in the second round. He's just an athletic freak. But, I mean, to be the best wide receiver his rookie year, no way. He has to develop.
And then I remember we talked about tight end combinations earlier. I believe that maybe the second best tight end group in the NFL belongs to the Steelers with Eric Ebron and the Vanimal, Vance McDonald. I mean, that in my opinion, that is maybe the second best combination in the NFL. Eric Ebron, when he's healthy, has been an outstanding guy.
I'd rather take Gronk and OJ Howard.
Oh no.
I'd take them over the two of them, and I would take Nick Boyle, Mark Andrews. That's a better tight end duo right there. No, that's a little biased. Let me take you over to the defensive side, but we have the best defense in the National Football League. First of all, T.J. Watt, Bud Dupree, both 10-plus sacks last year. Watch out for Alex Heisman. He's a rookie this year. He's going to probably put up close to 10 sacks this season playing linebacker. Out in safety, you got the best safety in football, Minkah Fitzpatrick. I agree with that.
You got the best in Minkah Fitzpatrick. You got an outstanding defensive line with Cam Hayward, especially with Cam Hayward, and now you got young guys here out. Terrell Edmonds, he's going to be a really good safety this year. So you just got to watch out for this team. Tyson Alalu too coming in on the defensive end. This is going to be a scary team on defense. I think it's the best defense in the league, and the offense is still top 10. So I have a look at the Steelers this year. I think we win it all.
You want to criticize the Eagles winning the division? You say the Eagles can't win the division, but you have the Steelers winning the Super Bowl?
Well, I'm not saying that's a bad pick. I really like the Cowboys this year.
I think they could go. They'll win probably 10 or 11 games and probably lose in the first round. But I mean, I just cannot see it.
Yeah. Well, those are two.
Look at what the Niners did. It's basically the same team as the Niners last year, and a better defense, in my opinion, and a much better offense. And the
They do
49ers
not have the
still should've won
quarterback
that
the
game.
49ers did. They have Joe Hayden as their number one
Joe
quarterback.
Hayden,
Dude,
Steven Nelson. Steven Nelson was one of the most underrated cornerbacks last year.
You want to criticize Darius Slay,
Nick
but you
Hilton,
think
too.
Joe Hayden's good.
Steven Nelson is our best cornerback. It's proven. He had some of the best coverage percentages last year.
Just move on.
Yeah, well, those are two very interesting picks from both of you. We'll see if that can come true. So that's going to wrap up the episode for today. We'll be probably out with another episode, probably tomorrow or next week for sure. So just make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and on our social media page on Instagram at Boiled Up Podcast. And thank you for tuning in, everyone, and have a great day.